It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z Garcia.
Hey folks, today I'm taking a look at Omens of Ice. Omens of Ice here is an expansion for Elder Sign, which is a dice-driven cooperative game with a Cthulhu theme, of course. And in this one, all the players represent an expedition that has gone off into the frozen Alaskan wasteland, and you are trying to, again, keep an ancient one from awakening and survive and all of that good stuff. I'm going to be showing you the expansion here, but I'm not going to be showing you how to play the base game, just giving you the differences that this introduces and how basically it operates. So, without further ado, let's take a look at it. So here's what the game looks like, mostly set up and ready to begin. I'm going to be just pretty much showing you the differences from the base game. And if you are familiar with Gates of Arkham, a previous expansion, then this will be a lot more familiar to you. But if not, then I'll show you some of the differences. At this point, we have already shuffled in some common items, some unique items, spells, allies. There's also some new baddies, and there are some new characters, which I'm not going to go into. Suffice it to say, you have some new options here now. And the game replaces the entrance card with this expedition camp, which functions largely the same way. But the main new things are the game does away with the adventure cards in the original game, and you use the ones that it provides you with, which come in two stages here. And we're going to put the stage 2 aside for now. And they're set up like this. Main innovation here, again, if you're familiar with Gates of Arkham, you know this already, is that when you go somewhere, let's say this is my little character thing, if I go to one of these face-up ones, I just go, I get my dice, I roll, same concept there. If I go to one of these that are still not revealed on the back, it gives me a clue as to how difficult it might be, the location, a general location, and then there's also some triggered ability at the bottom. When I first go there, I deal with that ability, and then I actually reveal the card. There might be a power that triggers upon me flipping the card called an entry power, and then I roll and everything else like that. The other new things in the game are this card here is a sort of a story event. It starts face up, and as you work your way through it, then this one will lead to one called Into the Wild. And then this one, if you win it, actually it says down here, progress to stage 2. So you would replace the stage 1 deck with the stage 2 deck. We flip over a new card. We start working through those. And so it lends the game a story-driven feel. That's what those do. So you work on those and progress the story, further the story, while still dealing with all of this, still needing to get elder signs, all of that. Besides that concept, you now have these little cloud tokens, the storm markers, and that's another new idea here. You are here on this card at the top tracking the days and tracking your supplies. You are going to sometimes, this is sort of a new resource you are managing, and if you run out, the game will start penalizing you for that. Also, the days advancing bring worse and worse weather. These tokens end up on these cards. When you go there, you have to reveal them, and they do a lot of different things. Like this one makes you give up a spell. Sometimes they're nothing, and so you get a free pass there. But sometimes they'll even put tokens on the elder ones here, and so they can be really nasty. You need to be careful with these. But, they get distributed to the cards. Each card can have up to 4, and if it does have 4, then yet again there's another bad thing that happens when it is midnight, and you have to deal with that. One of the main things that the game emphasizes largely on the cards is choice. You have a lot of choices now on the cards. Sometimes when you lose you are given a choice between two bad things happening. Sometimes when you win, you're given a choice between two good things happening. And then the new Mythos deck, which you must use instead of the original one, every card basically gives you two choices. And they are sometimes two good things, rarely, but they're sometimes, or two bad things. And you have the choice, depending on how many supplies you're willing to give up, how many items sometimes you're willing to give up, things like that. And so there's a lot more managing of resources that comes into play. Some of these cards even deal with you being blessed or cursed, which came from the first expansion of the game, Unseen Forces, and deals with these dice. Again, these are not in the base game. But since they give you a choice, if you don't own that first expansion, then you just make the other choice. And so that's one clever way of sort of getting around people who own or don't own the first expansion. One more thing that's pretty interesting is that you can choose to change the difficulty in the game. Obviously, depending on the big baddie you pick, they tell you in the manual which one is worse. It's like one that's so-so, then a bad one, then a horrific one. And then besides that, you can play during the summer, in which you use this side of the card, or winter, which is a lot tougher. And in fact, in this one, when you get to the end of this track, you just lose. If you take too long to win the game, you are just out of luck. And so those are basically the things that the game introduces. Everything, of course, being thematically tied to this Alaskan expedition. But that should give you a rough overview of how the game operates when you are using the Omens of Ice expansion. So there you have it. That is how this expansion works. There's a couple of other things I did not show you, like, it introduces some new monsters that you mix in with the old monsters and things like that. But I gave you pretty much the gist of it. And if you are familiar with the Gates of Arkham expansion, the last expansion, then a lot of this is going to seem familiar to you, as I said. If not, that's okay. You don't have to play that expansion. You can go right into this one. And in fact, both that expansion and Omens of Ice here have sort of taken the Elder Sign model and moved it in a different direction, where now these expansions are more like plugins, where you remove the adventure cards, remove a few other things. You still need some things, but then it tells its own unique story. In this one, in a brand new setting, with a few new mechanisms like the weather, the storm clouds, and tracking your supplies and things like that. It's a very clever system that I was very impressed with in Gates of Arkham. The way they took the game and really turned it on its head, gave you a lot more interesting choices. And this one pushes that concept even further. I think they did a brilliant job of allowing you to, yes, deal with the random roll of the dice, and yes, try to manage what the game deals to you, but you have a lot of choices of what you take, what you expend, how you manage your supplies in the game. All of those things combined really, I think, push this experience to be one that allows for a lot more player-driven content, player-driven choices and interaction. The game still has a couple of the issues I had with the original game, with the previous expansion, and that is that it doesn't scale very well. I don't want to play this game with more than, say, 3 players, because otherwise it's really too long. I am sitting there for way too much time between my turns. All of those issues. I still have that problem. I still think the game is a little too long overall, but this expansion is spectacular. I am very happy with it. The theme is solid. The illustrations are great. The new mechanisms are great. Everything that they've put on display here really elevates this experience. And I hope they continue going with this idea of giving you a new setting to play in that comes with its own cards, its own sort of story-driven content. Wonderful, wonderful idea. Omens of Ice for Elder Sign. thumbs up from me. Check this one out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.